Hello everyone, it's Sheila back again. Welcome to my channel. I am just about finished this is the second band of Claudette's cardigan, and I'm having a little bit of a job with the buttonholes because usually when I do the buttonholes I count the rows. I work out how many rows in between each buttonhole and then I count the rows up, but it's awfully hard to count these, so I'm having a bit of a job, but I'm managing. I keep getting up every so often. I've got the cardigan on my floor and I've got the other band on, and I'm keeping measuring it up against the band and hoping I get the buttonholes all right. But anyway, I'm sitting here. This is a lovely hot day, really too hot to sit outside knitting. There's not a breath of wind outside. It's about 28 degrees here today, which is really hot for where I live. Normally we don't normally get temperatures like that. But anyway, today is not about knitting. I'm going to tell you one of my little stories. This is a little story about my life from my early years, from when I was about 17. I'm going to give you a little insight to the kind of life I was having. When I was 17, I worked in Ringtons tea factory. I worked on the dispatch department there. And at the time, my parents moved from where I was living at the time. But at the time I was working at Ringtons tea factory, I just lived across the road, and all I had to do was step out my front door, because I lived very top of the street, cross over the road, and I was into Ringtons tea factory. And I worked on the dispatch department, where all the van used to come in with the van man and the van boys used to come in for the orders, and we used to pack all the orders up for the van men to take out. And there was a particular van boy, that I really liked, really had a bit of a crush on him. And I'd had one or two other boyfriends, and that, but I couldn't seem to I only ever got a smile out of him. I could never sort of get anywhere with him. And there was one day, I was about 17 and a half by this time, I think. This boy had been working there. He was older than me. He had a year older than me. His name was Mel. He had started before I started, because I was 15 when I started working there. And the van that he was on, the van driver was a friend of my dad's. And he came in with Mel this day into the dispatch department, dragging him in. And he pushed him in front of me and he said to them, "If you don't ask her, I'm going to ask her for you." And I'm looking at what on earth's going on here. And Mel was sort of very sheepishly looking at me, and he said, "Sheila," he says, "are you courting anybody? Are you going out with anybody?" I said, "Not at the moment, Mel. Will you go out with me?" I didn't want to sound as though I was going to jump at the chance, and I said, "Well, I might do. I know where we're going to go." And then we did go out that night. We went to the local pictures. And I went out with Mel for about a year and a half. And we really liked each other. We even talked about getting married. Well, when we were courting, I didn't start going in the pub till I was 18. And we started going in this pub up where Mel lived, because he lived a different area to me. And there was this young girl behind the bar, and she used to ask me every time we went in if I was still courting with Mel. That's what we called it in them days. I don't think they call anything like that these days. And I used to say, "Yes, I'm still going out with Mel." I says, "I wouldn't be coming in here with him if I wasn't." Called her Shirley. And she really had a thing for him, and she was just kept hoping that we would finish and she could go out with him. But it didn't happen then. And anyway, we were talking about getting married. My mum and dad loved him. And at the time, when he was working at Ringtons, earlier on, Ringtons started paying off some of their staff. And it was the last in was the first to go. Well, Mel was one of the last little van boys that had went in, and he lost his job there. Well, my dad was a steel erector at the time, and he used to have a mate, and he had lost his mate. And I told my dad about Mel losing his job, and my dad was sort of, no way was he going to have his daughter going out with anybody who didn't have a job. So we offered Mel the job, like his mate, you know, like he'd do all the carrying and things and all that for what I did, but he would learn a trade, you know, the steel erecting, the same as my dad. So Mel started working with my dad, and I mean, my dad really liked him, and like I say, we had been talking about getting married. Well, at the time, Mel had asked about going on holiday. There was a group of us. There was about 6 of us, about 3 couples. We all used to go out together and that, you know, meet up and that. And they were going to get a camper van and go around France for the you know, the summer for the holidays. And Mel asked me if I would go. And I said, yes, I'd go, but I'd have to tell my mum and dad that I'm going on holiday with the girls. You know, I couldn't say I was going on holiday with a boyfriend. You know, it wasn't done in them days, like. And so that's what was sorted, and that's what we were going to do. And I had gone on to my friends who I was working with. There was quite a few of them were going to go on holiday. And I had said, if anybody sees anything, you know, my mum or dad, because my mum and dad knew some of them, see that I'm on holiday with you's mind those 2 weeks that we were going away. And anyway, it was a couple of weeks later, I asked Mel about the holiday, when we were going to sort it out, and he suddenly turned around and said we weren't going. He couldn't go, he said, and wouldn't tell me why, just we weren't going. I'll have a bit of drink here. And I kept saying to him, you know, well, why aren't we going? The others are going, and why aren't we going? And he said, just forget it, we're not going. And so I decided if I wasn't going on holiday with him, I was going to go with my friends who I said I was going to go with. I'd already told my mum and dad that I was going to go on holiday with the girls, thinking I was going with Mel, but so I got in touch with all the girls and we all arranged. I went on holiday with them instead, decided to go on holiday with them. Well, when I told Mel, he said to me that I wasn't going on holiday with them. And I got annoyed and said that there was no way was anybody telling me what I could or couldn't do. I was going on holiday with the girls, and that was it and all about it, so we'd just have to like it or lump it. And one argument led to another, and he said, well, if you're going on holiday with those girls, he says, we are finished. So I says, right then, we're finished. And he looked at me sort of shocked like, and I said, well, I'm not going out with you anymore. I'm not having you telling me what I can and can't do. I says, we're not even married yet. So I says, we're not going to get married. I'm finished with you. And that's what happened. We parted. Like I say, never seen much of him. Like he was working with my dad then. And he often used to drop my dad off. And he used to come in and see me before when we were still courting and all that. And he stopped coming in the house. He didn't want to come in anymore. And my mum and dad were my dad was annoyed. He wanted us to get married and that. And I just said to him, well, it's not going to be, Dad. I says, we're just not suited to each other. And my dad says, well, just over a stupid little argument. He says, yes, I don't know what you were arguing about. He says, and this went on anyway, and I stopped bothering, and my mum and dad stopped bothering talking about him and that. And then my dad came in. This was getting round about Christmas time. I'd finished with Mel in the September, I think it was. And it was getting near around about Christmas time. My dad came in and he said, annoyed like so, and he said, Mel's getting married. And he said to me, and it's all your fault. And I said, what do you mean? How is it my fault? Mel's getting married. It's got nothing to do with me. He says it is. He says if you hadn't finished with him, he wouldn't have met somebody else and been getting married. But I says, it's only a couple of months since I've finished with him, Dad. And he says, well, he has to get married. And that was it. This girl who had been after him in the bar, Shirley, she must have pounced on him when she found out we weren't going, and apparently had made her pregnant. This was before Christmas. Never thought no more about it. My mum and dad were invited to the wedding, and naturally I wasn't like, but they went and all that, and my dad was never too happy about it afterwards. And nothing much, didn't hear much more about it, and I was just wondering when this baby was going to be born, that, you know, I was asking my dad. And it got to nearly the end of October, the very last couple of days in October, when this girl had this baby. And my dad said to me, that's an 11-month baby. That's the longest pregnancy I've ever heard of. And we just laughed, and I thought, well, you know, she must have told him she was pregnant when she wasn't, and they got married, and she must have got pregnant afterwards. Anyway, I never seen him again for a long time. A couple of years later, I met my husband. We got married, and I had my oldest son. And the next time I did see Mel, I was about 8 months pregnant with my second son. And Mel had dropped my dad off, and my dad realised I was, because I used to go and visit him, you know, every week. And my dad must have said to Mel, oh, he says, oh, Sheila's here with our son, why don't you come in and see him? So he came in, and, you know, I had a little chat and asked him how things were and all that, and he said, okay, he had a daughter. And that was it, just sitting talking, and my dad said, Sheila has to get the bus. We lived in Kenton at the time, which anybody from my area will know where them places are. And she says, my dad said Sheila has to go into Newcastle to get the bus to go home to North Shields. You could give her a lift into the town, because he was on his way home, so he agreed. And I know the exact date this was. It was 1971. It was the very end of July, because I was 8 months pregnant with my second son, Anthony. So that's how I know the exact date when it was. And Mel, he gave me a lift, and we're on the way into Newcastle, into the town, for me to catch my bus from there. And we stopped a little way from the a little quiet little place. He stopped and just wanted to sit and talk, and he was sitting talking, and he said to me, I'm divorced now, Sheila. And I said, yes. And he says, you know, we could have had a good life together. Is there any hope now? I says, Mel, look, I'm married now. This is my son. I'm expecting another one any day now. I says, it's too late. And he said to me, he said, I was a fool, wasn't I? I says, well, you said it. And that was the last time I seen him. And like I'm saying, I had all them years with my husband and my 3 sons, and life wasn't great, you know, but it was okay. We managed, and my husband died in 2014, and it was about 2 years later. I was a friend of the house. We were looking through some old photographs. I'll see if I can find the photograph that we see, but we're looking through some old photographs. Oh, I don't know, I'd have a problem finding it on there. There's that many photos in. But looking through some old photographs, and I had an old photograph of Mel from when we were courting. Just Mel. It was just a photograph of him with his dog, sitting at his door at the time. And somebody, a friend, asked me who it was. So I told her all about Mel and what had happened and everything. And she says to me, oh, she says, her expression for him was, he's lush, you know, looking at the photograph. I said, well, that was a long time ago, that. I says, that photograph was about over 50 years old. And she said to me anyway, have you ever seen or heard anything from him since? I says, no. Well, I says, he worked with my dad, but I says, my dad, you know, his health wasn't too good later on, and he had to give up work, so Mel went his own way after that, and I think he went different parts of the world, actually doing steel erecting and things like that, as far as I know. That's what I used to hear from my dad, because my dad was in contact with him for a lot of years. So I says, I don't know where he is now. And she says, well, why don't you have a look on Facebook? And just says, just to see how he's getting on in life and that, and what's happening and all that. So that's what I did. And I actually found him on Facebook. And we were talking on, you know, on the, just typing things to each other on the on his page and that. And he was so shocked, like, to find me contacting him on there. And I found out his wife, he had married again, and his wife had died around about the same time my husband had died. So he was a widower and I was a widow. So we arranged to go and see each other. I said I would call at his house because I had a car for driving, he didn't. So we went up and I went up to where he lived, and he made me a lovely meal at his house, and we had a lovely chat and were talking for hours actually. And he was telling me a lot of things that, well, when he was working with my dad, he was telling me some of the things that I never even knew about my dad. He was telling me all these things about him and about his life and everything. And then, just out of curiosity, I said to him, remember that time when we were going to go on holiday, Mel, together? We were going to go in that camper van around France and Italy, I think. We were going to go around a lot of places, and I said, and then you suddenly decided we weren't going. I says, why did you suddenly decide that? Because he never ever told me why. And he says, well, you know, at the time I was working with your dad. And I says, yes, I knew you were working with me dad. I says, what about that? He says, well, we're on this job this day, and he says, you know, when we're on different jobs, you have a cabin thing, and we have a break every so often, you know, like you do when you're working. And he says, I went into the cabin, and your dad was still working on the roof. He said he was coming in later for his cup of tea, but he says, I went in, and all the other lads were there, and we were all talking, and they were talking about where they were going on holiday. And he said, and I told him, they asked me, what you doing this year, Mel? And he said, oh, me and Sheila we're going on holiday around France, and that we're with some friends. We're going to a camper van, and we're going to have a holiday. And he says, your dad walked in the cabin, and he said, not with my daughter, you're not. And that was why. So you can see my father was the cause of my breaking up with Mel all them years ago. And he says, and I said, well, why did you not just tell me that? He says, well, I just didn't want to see. He says, and I daren't do anything. I daren't have went on holiday with you. He says, your dad would have killed me. And he says, you know, he says, what they called your dad on the site. He says, they used to call him Satan. So that was a little bit of information I found out after all those years. And I mean, I had such a laugh about it and that, and we got on really very well and that, and we did have a relationship for a year and a half. And Mel had asked me a few times to get married, but I didn't want to marry. He lived a good way from where I live, and I liked my house where I live, and I didn't want to give up my house, and I just liked things the way they were. I could come and go as I pleased. And that was just the way I wanted things. So I said I didn't really want to get married, but he still kept asking me. And after about a year and a half, we had a few holidays together. We went abroad, a few holidays in Mallorca, Lanzarote, Cyprus. Went a few holidays together because naturally we were both pensioners. We had no no work or anything like that, and I just used to go up to his every so often, and yeah, every so many times a week, and stayed there. And other times, would meet other places and that. And one day something happened. He had a little bit trouble. He was a bit dizzy and couldn't keep his feet properly, and I didn't think anything of it, but the next day he didn't seem to be getting any better, and we got the doctor anyway, and I think after a few tests and things, he was hospital and all that, he was diagnosed with a brain tumour, and this brain tumour was the most aggressive kind of cancer you could ever have, and he lasted 7 weeks. But I had 18 months of a life that I might have had before, but who knows? I mean, he was okay with his life after that, and I was okay with the life I had. But I often think what might have happened if we had stayed together, hadn't gotten married. So that was just a little story I was telling you about, a little bit about my life that you might be interested in. So I'm going to finish this band now and get that cardigan sewn up, and I might get to the post office today to post it, Claudette, because I have to post another parcel. There's another lady, one of my subscribers, has bought. I had 5 balls of this wool left, which I was never ever going to knit up again, and she's bought it off me. She sent the money through PayPal for me for the wool, so I'll be posting that off as well. So that was just my little bit story for today. So a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll let you in on any other stories I think of any other time. So bye for now.